reports. Well, disturbing numbers. The number of unhoused people needing emergency shelter in Baltimore has doubled in the last 2 years. That's according to the latest city data. Reporter Hallie Miller from our media partner, the Baltimore Banner, is looking into the why of this. She joined us now. Good to see you, Hallie.
Hi, Denise.
All right. Upsetting report. You point to two main reasons for this doubling in the number of people who need help. A loss of funding to prevent evictions, so people are losing their homes, and funding to support those in need. And then the rising, soaring even, costs of renting and owning a home. So break down those numbers for us.
So during the coronavirus pandemic, which began a little more than 5 years ago, cities and states and governments responded to that by doling out large amounts of eviction prevention funds. And evictions due to failure to rent cases really plunged. The courts weren't hearing those cases, and there were federal guidelines that said you cannot evict people due to their failure to pay. That's pretty much over now. The funds have dried up, those directives are gone. And what you're left with are people who still need that support but aren't getting it. And then in addition to that, as you said, you have rising home and rent costs. The average cost to rent in Baltimore is a little over $1,600 now, and that's just for a one-bedroom. That's a little bit over what the number is nationally. The national figure, according to the National Alliance to End Homelessness, is around $1,500 and a little below $1,600, $1,575. So all around the country, you're seeing not only is it harder to buy a house, which I'm sure you've talked about on your show many times, but it's also increasingly difficult to rent.
Yeah, I had no idea the number was that high, 1,600, Hallie. That was shocking. You also talk in your report about some turbulence that people may know about in the city's Office of Homeless Services the past few years. Tell us about that.
So after the coronavirus pandemic, obviously the Mayor's Office of Homeless Services, like other city agencies and other government agencies around the country, started dealing with personnel issues. A lot of turnover. It's harder to retain people. It's harder to get them in the office to do their work. And what we saw was a level of dysfunction in the office that was really unprecedented. And that manifested itself in two really crucial ways. So the first way was staff in that office became locked out of the federal reimbursement system that they would use to get money to pay for some of the things that they do, like providing rental assistance and counseling to people who really depend on it. They couldn't get into the system because people were leaving the office so rapidly and so often that they didn't have a way to keep track of the passwords. And we did a lot of reporting over the last couple of years into how exactly that happened. And another reason that we found was because the staff was also violating security rules. Additionally, people's rents at that time over those years were not getting paid, and we saw increased evictions of people who were in specially designed housing programs to avoid homelessness. And so they're really trying to right the ship now.
All right. Well, it's clearly a problem. Very good report. I urge people to read it, and it's very insightful. Thank you for joining us, Hallie, as always. And if you'd like to read her report and other independent good reporting from our media partner, the Baltimore Banner, head to